Okay, well, let's get started. Hopefully Kyle will join us. First of all, thank you all for being here. Thanks to Aaron and Trudy from the fire department, especially for being here. Thank you for Rebecca for setting this up. Thank you for Arlene for pushing us to do this. What we're going to cover generally is fire safety, both in the apartment and in the building. We had done a walkthrough at the end of last week with Aaron and Trudy, so they have a good sense of how the building is set up. We had Mark from Tross there as well to answer other questions. Hopefully we'll get Kyle Kowaleski on the phone or as part of the meeting at some point in case there are other questions. Just in terms of just a quick Zoom etiquette for this, we'll have chances along the way for questions, but if something occurs to you during the course of the discussion and you'd like to raise it, I apologize. I have a phone ringing in the background that I can't turn off. If a question pops up, comes to your mind, just post it in the chat and we can keep track of questions that way. I'll turn it over to Aaron right now and take it away.
All right, well, thanks for having us. And Trudy's having a little bit of technical difficulties, but we'll see if we can get her back when she gets a chance. My name is Aaron Spence. I work with Portland Fire. I'm in the public education department, and Trudy is my co-worker in the public education department. And this type of outreach is basically what we do, trying to talk to people about, you know, different things that they can do to protect themselves in their home and different situations that they might find themselves in. So we're happy to be here, and thank you for inviting us. So I'll just jump right into the questions that were submitted and see if I can't answer them. Did everybody get a copy of the questions, or do I need to read the question itself and go over it?
I think you need to read them.
Okay, will do. All right. So the first question was the main cause of household fires. So there's three things here. You know, houses are caused from electrical wiring, anything from electrical wiring to carelessness to cooking. But kind of the main ones that we're going to focus on today are cooking, smoking, and then space heaters. Space heaters are a little bit more seasonal, but it's always something that's good to talk about. We have numerous space heater fires every year. So cooking, so cooking
Are you
fires.
getting background for me?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, mute.
So whenever we experience cooking fire, we always say to just put a lid on it. A lot of times people will think that they can use a fire extinguisher or put it underwater or something like that, but those are not the greatest ideas. So what we suggest is if you're cooking with hot oil or grease or anything like that, have a lid or a cookie sheet nearby that you can use to put on that pot to stop the fire from spreading. A lot of people will think that using a fire extinguisher is a good idea, but you have to remember that fire extinguisher is under pressure. And if you spray it directly into the pot that you're cooking on, there's a chance of it spreading the oil outside of that pot or pan and extending the fire to the cabinets that are around it. So we suggest is you put a lid on it, don't touch it, turn the fire off or the electricity off, and just let it cool naturally. If you put it underwater, you can find yourself in an explosive type of condition. So don't move it. Don't try and, you know, pick it up and carry it outside or anything like that. Just put a lid on it. Use the extinguisher if it is spread to the cabinets around, but otherwise just let it sit, open the windows, start airing out the apartment. That's the safest thing to do until it's cooled completely down, and then you can deal with it however you see fit. The second one is smoking. So the big thing here is always keep matches and lighters away from kids, right? They're curious people and they want to play with matches and lighters, and it's nothing abnormal for them to have curiosity around fire, but we want to make sure that they don't have access to those those tools. Another big thing is never smoke while using supplemental O2 or oxygen. Seems like a no-brainer, but we see it every year. And then never smoke in bed. Also a no-brainer, but again, we see that often. So the third one is space heaters. And the big thing with space heaters is we want distance from flammable objects, right? So 3 feet in every direction around that space heater. The other big one with space heaters and with other pieces of equipment that generate heat, like coffee makers, toasters, toaster ovens, they need to be plugged directly into a wall outlet. They should not ever be plugged into an extension cord or a power strip or a multi-plug adapter. They draw a lot of energy to create that heat, and they have to get plugged directly into the wall. And then we want to make sure that they have tip over protection. And this is a really easy thing to test your space heater. So you turn the space heater on, let the fan start going, and then tip it over to a 45-degree angle. If it doesn't shut itself off automatically, then it doesn't have tip over protection, and we would suggest that you replace it with a unit that has automatic tip over protection. But the big one, that clear space in all directions, 3 feet. So the next thing that we're going to talk about are extinguishers. And I sent out a video. I hope that got shared with everybody. It was an informational video on extinguishers. Arlene, did you have a chance to share that?
Rebecca sent it in her message, right, Rebecca? Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah, we sent
Awesome.
out to the community.
Okay. Well, I hope that was useful. So the question is, inside the units, the best all-around type for homeowners and where to store and basic how to operate. And I hopefully you got most of that information from the video that was provided. But we generally go with an all-around type extinguisher for inside units. It's an ABC extinguisher. The main thing to remember with extinguishers is the PASS acronym. So PASS, it stands for pull the pin, aim at the base of the fire, squeeze the handle, and sweep back and forth. The big takeaway with fire extinguishers is if the fire is about the size of a small kitchen trash can, then we would say, go ahead and try and take care of it with an extinguisher. You still need to call 911 after the fire's out, because we need to come and check that there were no extensions. But it's dangerous to use a fire extinguisher. So you need to make sure that you have your back towards the exit, that you know how to get out. Fires these days, we have a lot of plastics and a lot of manufactured materials. And the smoke is much more toxic than it has ever been. And just one breath of that toxic smoke can render somebody unconscious or can cause problems. So we really want you to, if you can hit it real quick and then get out of the apartment, go ahead and do that. But if there's, if the fire is growing rapidly or you don't have a good escape route, just go ahead and evacuate and call 911. Every unit has sprinklers in it. So that each unit has a built-in fire extinguisher, giant fire extinguisher. And those operate automatically. Once the room hits a certain temperature, the sprinkler heads activate. So you have that as a backup. Let's see. So the hallway outside units, you're going to get a diagram from Kin Living, have them mark in red where the extinguishers are located and point out locations and how difficult are these to operate. They should be about 7 pounds, I think, Rebecca.
Yes, I do believe that's the size of the extinguisher, about that weight.
Yeah. So generally those common area extinguishers are about 7 pounds. And you can look in those cabinets and kind of get familiar with it. All the extinguishers operate exactly the same. So as long as you remember the PASS acronym, it shouldn't be too bad. Trudy, do you want to take alarm? You got to unmute yourself though.
Anyway, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, awesome. So apologies for that, fun stuff. Anyway, so alarms. So do you want me to just start going through it then, or do we doing questions first, or how do you want me to proceed? It
We
looks like you
were,
guys have some, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. We were reading the question first, just so that everybody's on the same page.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, so so it looks like asking Kin Living to explain to you any differences between in-unit and hallway alarms. So when do they alert the front desk, etc. Fire department notified. Ask them if if the KC is a local alarm building or not. So okay, so basically the building is a central alarm system. So what that means is if there's a flow, if there's water flowing, any of the sprinkler heads or any of the hallway units go off, then we're going to get tapped out. So it's going to automatically notify the fire department. The in-unit alarms do not. That's the only difference unless there's a sprinkler head flowing. So if that makes sense. We want you to know that, well, are there any questions on that, first of all, before I go on?
So Trudy, if you would.
Yeah.
Let's assume that the alarm goes off in my apartment.
Okay.
What are the 3 or 4 steps that I take next?
Okay. So depending on what it is, so if you have an obvious, burnt toast or something like that, that you've set off the alarm, then there's certainly no reason to evacuate or panic, so you don't need to notify everybody and call 911 or anything like that. You just need to, open the window, air out the smoke, maybe let the front desk know. But it's more if you have an actual fire in your unit. So if you have a stove fire, for instance, what you'd want to do is if it's feeling like it's out of control, you need to call 911. I mean, I don't want anybody to ever doubt that, oh, it's probably already let the fire department know. Call 911 if you have a fire and you can't control it. But an easy little stove fire, such as a grease fire, you can put slide a lid carefully over it, which is what we recommend always. Never moving a pan that's on fire, which we've seen that happen before where they spread fire through the room. So if you can handle it, or if you have a small fire extinguisher and you want to, put it out on a little small trash can fire or whatnot, that's okay. But small fires only. So one thing I don't like about fire extinguishers is we don't want you to think that you have to try to fight a fire yourself. Fires grow big. We know that they get fat, they get big fast. So we don't want you to try to fight a fire that you're not comfortable doing. So when in doubt, always call 911. If you get out of your apartment, you need to close the door behind you. Something really important. So you don't want to spread those toxins throughout the hallway and other people's method of egress. If it's a big enough fire, it's going to set off the hallway alarm too, for sure. And it's obviously going to pop a sprinkler head if you've got a decent fire going. So things are going to happen as they should that way. But yeah, if you have smoke in your apartment from burnt toast, open the window, air it out. You don't need to, obviously you don't need to evacuate at that point. If it's going off and you don't know why, and you don't see or smell smoke, then you'd want to, contact the front desk and find out let them know that you don't have smoke or fire in your room, but it's going off. It can very well be a false alarm. And they're going to let us know. We're going to show up anyway. Even false alarms on a commercial building, we come anyway. We don't cancel en route. We cancel after we've come and checked out what's going on. So
just to summarize, the basic response, if you've got a fire in your apartment that is not easily handleable, call 911, leave the apartment, close the door, leave the door unlocked, and call the concierge to let them know what's happened right away as you're heading out?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to leave the door unlocked. We will get through any lock. So don't worry about whether you leave it unlocked or not. I mean, if you forgot that, we want you to get out, get to safety. So don't try to remember everything. Door locks don't stop us. So. Okay, any more questions on that? Doesn't sound like it. Okay, so priorities of homeowners. So different scenarios. Small cooking fire. I know we touched on this a little bit. So most smoke alarms have a hush button. So if your smoke alarm's going off and it has a hush feature, the button that silences it for a few minutes, you can do that. But putting a lid on it and opening the windows, again, I can't emphasize enough. Don't try to move a frying pan with a grease fire in it. Same with your oven. You can close the door and it's gonna run out of oxygen and smother itself. So don't try to move it. Don't try to hit it with a fire extinguisher because you can, because of that contents being under pressure, you can spread that fire. So just putting a lid on it is a very safe, effective way to put out a grease fire in a pan. Very safe. Evacuate and close the door behind you. We talked about that. And what happens when the fire station is alerted? So, I mean, what happens is we show up with a lot of rigs. And I think the important thing to remember here is the building is a very good, safe building. It's not the type of building that typically catches on fire. And if it does, it's not the type of building that typically the fire outruns the sprinklers. That's not typical, but we still want to prepare and always be ready for the worst. But it's a pretty safe building, fully sprinklered, monitored alarm system. I think the important thing to remember is just listen to the fire department when we get there. A lot of times, you know, we want to say, well, we're going to use this stair and they're going to use this stairwell and we're going to, but that's not something you can predict. It's nice that the one exits right down onto, what is it, Everett Street, but we don't know where the fire is going to be. So just listen when we get there and we will tell everybody we're going to be there very quickly, very quickly. So, you know, we're going to be right on top of it and it's going to be within minutes that there's going to be a lot of rigs there and we're going to be giving very clear direction on where to go, which stairwell to use. We'll be going through and making sure everybody's out, pets included. So I think the important thing to know is you're going to have a meeting place. You're going to want to get to that meeting place and you want to try to get out safely as possible if you can. If you cannot, then we'll deal with that. You know, when we get there, we're going to be helping if there's people who are immobile. I know we'll get to that, but downtown response is very fast. So you guys are really in good shape that way. We are going to come in with a lot of tools and a lot of people, and we're going to be big and noisy and pushy, but you know, we're going to take over that building real quick. So that should offer some peace of mind.
So do you want to talk at this point about who you'd evacuate if there were a fire?
Well, we're gonna evacuate whoever needs to be evacuated depending on where the fire is. So definitely a fire floor, or the floor above the fire floor. But if there's a lot of smoke in the building, we're gonna be getting everybody out. Problem is, we know there's gonna be mobility issues in every building, but we have a lot of good planning for this. And so, you know, we like to have somebody assigned to that person. We like to know where those people are ahead of time. But regardless, anybody can call 911 at any time during the scene. We've always got an open conversation going with dispatch. So if somebody calls and says, I'm in room such and such and I can't get out, we're going to know that right away. And we can come in, and if it takes us, you know, if we have to bring in a hose line and their own air supply, we'll do that. And we will stay with that person and get them out, whatever it takes. So it's not like, it's different now. We have different tactics where we can take a lot longer if we need to. Again, we bring water and protect that person's space. We bring air for them if need be, and as many personnel as we need, whether we're carrying them downstairs or what, we will get those people out. So top priority when we get there is going to be getting everybody out safely.
So let me just go back to one point that you made to emphasize it, which is if you have mobility problems and you don't think, and you've been, let's say you're on floor 8, you've been called to floor 8's been called to evacuate, but you have mobility problems and can't make it down the stairs, call 911.
Yes. And there's another thing you can do. You can get to a stairwell. If you can get to a stairwell, we're going to be all over those stairwells as well. So if we don't want anybody to go out in a smoky hallway, if they're mobility impaired and you open the door and there is smoke in the hall, then we want you to take refuge in your room, to shelter in place, close the door, protect your space, call 911, tell them what room you're in. But if you can get to a stairwell, that's okay too, because we will be stairwells are a good place to be if you're looking for the fire department, but we're going to be all over the whole building, especially stairwells. And I definitely recommend calling 911 if you are in your room sheltering and need evacuating, because we will get that message instantly.
And one thing to remember here is all of the doors that go into your condos are fire rated doors, and they're rated for at a minimum of 90 minutes. So that means that you can have heat and smoke against that door for 90 minutes before it'll start to fail. And then the stairwells are protected beyond that. So the stairwells are, all of your egress points are protection points. So like Trudy was saying, if you can make it into a stairwell, the fire department's it's going to be easier to get you out. We're going to probably find you faster, and you're going to be protected in that space for a long amount of time.
Yep, exactly. Let's see, where were we at? Evacuation. So how to help evacuate the building? How do you check for pets? So that's a really good question. How do we enter locked units? We enter them lots of ways. So we have a lot of tools that can force any door. We kick doors in, we do whatever it takes. Don't ever worry about us not getting access. For pets, really good question. And people have this question a lot. If we can get them out at that moment, we will. If they're safe in the room, we may wait and come back for them. But we do treat pets as a rescue, just like we would people. So we are going to get pets out of the building in the same manner we would rescuing people. So we aren't going to, so same thing, you can let us know if we are passing you in the hall, or we're getting you out and say, I have a dog in here, I have a cat, whatever. Perfect, we'll go grab them. Worst case scenario, if you end up calling 911, you can do that too. Again, we have an open communication going on with dispatch the whole time. We rescue pets just like we do people. So don't ever worry about, it's still important information to let us know if there are pets still inside, and we will take them out as soon as we can. So Casey specific, hopefully my sound is coming through. Probably a record for the technical difficulties today for me. So
I just want to include a note on the pet. We have a updated directory that lists all the pets within the building, and the floor captain should receive an updated copy of the directory when we update it here coming soon. So that's always available to both the fire department through the concierge and the floor captains as well. So
great. That's good. That's really good. Let's see. So,
sorry,
yeah,
I was just going to jump in real quick. That's a really good thing to kind of touch on real quick, is the floor captains. And really the kind of the role of the floor captain is to already have pre-identified who needs assistance getting out, to give assistance if they can, or to at least get the person to the stairwell. And then the biggest point or the biggest help for us from a floor captain is the accountability. So if everybody has evacuated and the floor captain knows, that there's one person that couldn't evacuate, have that face-to-face communication with command or with, just a firefighter to pass the message along is critical, because, stuff does get lost in communication. You could call 911 and say, I'm sheltering in place. You're obviously a priority at that point, but fire scenes are dynamic, and some follow-up from the floor captain is always helpful.
excellent. Questions on that? Anybody?
I have a question about,
Okay.
I understand that your water or your ladders don't go above the 10th floor.
The 8th floor, actually, typically.
8th floor. So how do you rescue people above that floor, those floors?
Yep. Very good question. So we are going to be using, most likely in this building, we would be using interior stairwells for that, to get folks down to a reachable point if we're taking them out by ladder, or else we may be taking them all the way out by stairwells. So keep in mind that we protect our space going in and out with hose lines, so that if we're going in a certain direction, we're going to protect that that entry with a hose line, and that ensures that we can get back out with people we're evacuating as well. So we don't always use the ladder for rescues if it's too high to reach. Your building also has a standpipe with connection, so we can hook into your standpipe at all levels and have water, a lot of water. So we are able to defend that person's space and get them down however we see fit the quickest way, which most likely in this case would be the stairwell, either or, whichever one is not affected by the fire.
And generally, we don't like to take people out on ladders. It's a dangerous operation. You know, you're 80 feet up in the air on a ladder. We would much rather take people out the stairs. And your building is so new. It has all the systems in place. The stairs are you know, going to be an option for us. So.
How do you get into the unit? You go up the stairs or you climb up
Yeah,
into
so-
the balcony or what?
So we'll always use the stairs. All of the elevators are going to recall to the main floor if there's a fire. We don't have a policy in place that allows us to use the elevators. We can use it to go to the floor below to transfer equipment and stuff like that. But as far as getting people out and gaining access to the fire floor, we're going to use the stairwell. And that's like what Trudy was saying. We're going to designate a stairwell that's specific for us. And so we're going to have firefighters going up and down that. We're going to have those stairwell landings are going to be loaded with gear and things like that. And then the other stairwell is going to be used for evacuating people. And it's very specific to the fire conditions and what's happening, where the fire is located, what's burning, has it overrun the sprinklers, things like that, as far as which stairwell are we going to designate. So one of the points of these questions was you all had already kind of pre-identified which stairwell you're going to use for evacuation. I think that's great. But just understand that could change just depending upon conditions. So, yeah.
Is that decision about which staircase they're using on the fire, how is that communicated, I guess, to the floor captains or the building management? How can we get that information out to the residents as quickly as possible?
We're going to be there and be doing that. The fire department's going to be there and do that. We're going to communicate with everybody. We're going to have multiple people on multiple floors. We can also, we can talk through the system in the fire command room that we were discussing during our walkthrough, but we're going to be all over that building. So you can know that we're going to be communicating with everybody and pretty much taking over the building so that we're all kind of on the same page.
Thank you.
So one of the questions here is, should residents who shelter on balconies unlock their unit doors and put wet towels or other material at the bottom of the door to keep out smoke? We have a gap at the bottom of our doors. So it really kind of depends on the situation, but we don't generally want people to shelter on balconies. And the reason is if you do have a fire that overruns the sprinklers, there's a possibility that it's going to break out the windows. And you could end up being exposed on that balcony. You have good fire protection in your unit. You have a good fire rated door. So if you find yourself in a shelter in place situation, definitely put some towels, to plug up that gap at the bottom of the stairs. But we'd prefer that you stay in your unit, call 911 and let them know your location and we'll come and get you.
Any questions on that or? No. Let's see, doors, we talked a little bit about this, sufficiently rated. So it sounds like you guys have 90-minute doors. Your stairwell doors are likely 4-hour doors even. So you've got a lot of good shelter in place. If it takes us 90 minutes to get everybody out, we're doing something wrong. So that's not going to happen. So rest assured, they're longer doors than need be. So we'll, in a good way. So you have a lot of time. Like Aaron said, putting a towel underneath that door does help to protect the smoke. You want to protect your space, keep that area you're breathing as clean as possible. You do know if smoke does get into your room, to stay low as possible. A lot of the it's not even really smoke anymore. It's more like poisonous gas. So we tell people to get down low where the air is cleaner to breathe while you're waiting for rescue. You know, at that point, it likely won't get to that point, I guess what I'm saying, as long as we know your location. So, but 90 minutes is a very long time, a very good fire door. Typical homes have a 30-minute door or maybe an hour at the most from their attached garage to the house. And I'm sure as Aaron and I have been on many garage fires that have been attached to the home and a 1-hour door, and you can lose the entire garage, and the home, if the door was shut, can be left untouched. Very little or no smoke damage. So 90 minutes is a very, very good door. 2 staircases, one empties onto Everett and the other goes into the lobby. So that's great. And it's good to know those exits. Something to keep in mind, you kind of want to have in your brain, you know, 2 ways out of every room, everywhere you go. When we live or work in the same building, we tend to come in and out the same way every time. And it's just a good little exercise to be thinking about, what if I couldn't go this way? Which way would I go? Especially in buildings that are familiar to you. You know, we can't guarantee which staircase we're going to have everybody go out, because it depends on the situation. So just make sure you know 2 ways out of everywhere in the building, and have that in your mind so that you are adaptable during times when things are in a bit of a panic. Because it says, which is the best stairwell for residents to use? I mean, again, that's great that the one exits right on to Everett, but just listen to the fire department again when we get there, and we'll make sure to control that. And it's hard sometimes to get people to leave. A lot of times people won't evacuate. And so we're going to be really working hard to get everybody going out the way we want, and assisting, and maybe not very nicely, but assisting as much as possible. No, I'm teasing, but yeah, we don't always know which stairwell. So you just have to listen to us and know that every situation is a little different, and we're going to be in contact with you and help to get everybody out safely. Have that place where you're going to meet. That's a good idea, wherever your meeting place is, so you can get kind of an accountability of everybody. And we'll make sure that if it's too close, then we'll ask you to back up. That's not a problem. Just get a place to meet, and then depending on the situation or where we have to park trucks and whatnot, then we will let you know if you just need to scoot back from the scene a bit. So yeah, it's hard. I'm not used to reading them while I talk. I usually just talk. So I'm sorry if I'm looking down, looking up. I've been at this a while, and it's nice though. Okay, so go ahead, Aaron. I'll let you take it away for a while.
So we're moving into fire drills. One of the questions is, we have been advised to have fire drills. Do you agree they are essential? And does the fire department participate in mock fire drills in order to show residents how to act and how the fire department will respond? If not, do you have suggestions for how to run a fire drill? So absolutely, fire drills save lives. I mean, it's muscle memory. It's something that needs to be practiced. It helps you kind of work out the kinks, especially since you have floor captains. It's absolutely great to run fire drills. In fact, Trady and I are going at 1 o'clock to watch a fire drill in one of the high-rise buildings downtown, and then we'll do a critique afterwards. So that's always an option if you want to invite us to be part of your fire drill. Typically what we do is we have the building engineer go ahead and put the building in alarm, and then everybody evacuates, and we watch how the floor captains operate, how they help assist people in getting down, how they get to their collection point, and then how they provide accountability and communication back to the fire department as to whether or not everybody is out and who needs additional assistance or who is sheltering in place. Remember, we've talked a lot about sheltering in place, and it's really good to know all of the components of sheltering in place. But it's also critical that if you can evacuate, that you evacuate. Even if it's 28 degrees outside and you're like, oh, I don't want to go stand out in the cold. It's critical that you evacuate when you hear the alarm, if you can. And so, yeah, we absolutely will come and help critique fire drills and be a part of that process. And the next question is, how much water does our building have available in case of a fire? So I don't know exactly how much water is available. But the first arriving engine companies will always plumb into your fire department connections. So you have these ports on the outside of your building, and they have a big sign over them that say FDC, and that's the fire department connection. And we will plumb into those connections to supplement any water that's needed. So we'll hook up to hydrants, and we'll be pulling city water and pumping it through our engine and then into your building in case that water gets low. And that's something that we train on and practice on. And it's part of our normal procedures for every high-rise alarm. Let's see.
I'm
And then
going to pop to, if we can, one question that came up in the chat as we're talking about evacuation, or before we move too far away from evacuation. Is there anything special that we need to think about with respect to a possible fire in the garage? I know we talked with you guys to make sure that the Knox box will have a fob so you can open the garage gate and get in. If we find ourselves in a situation of a garage fire, what do we do?
Well, the garage
Yeah.
is sprinkler too, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. So
No.
the garage is actually, it's almost, I mean, it does have natural air venting to the outside, but it's an encapsulated area that is built to withstand fire that lasts for a long time and has accelerants behind it. So all of those metal beams have a fire retardant coating on them. It's rated, I mean, I wouldn't know without looking at the plans of your building, but I would say that whole area is rated, to have fire burning in it without affecting the building for a very, very long time, hours and hours and hours. So we're going to treat it just like a car fire. We're going to probably evacuate maybe the first and second floor. Depending upon smoke conditions, we might end up evacuating more. It just depends. But you also have a pressurized ventilation system throughout the entire building. So the building engineer, if there is smoke that is coming in through somebody's balcony or something like that, they can pressurize different floors to add additional ventilation. But as far as I think for a fire that's in a garage, you're still going to get a high-rise box. So you're still going to get an assignment of a lot of engines and a lot of trucks and a lot of firefighters, even if it's just a car fire. So yeah, they are well protected areas that are meant to withstand fire for a very, very long time.
It's probably
Does
one of
that
the best
answer-
to get a fire in that building.
Yeah.
Maybe the garage. It's not going to go anywhere. Yeah, that's a good question. So
Did that answer your question, Mark?
Yeah. Sorry.
I think that did. And I mean, and the only other piece is we would simply evacuate the same way we would evacuate any other time. We would just go up, we'd go up whichever stair we could, or whichever stair we were told ultimately to use. And so just leading into that, if you guys get there and you get, the first thing that you're going to do is hook into the emergency announcement system so that you will say, there has been a report of a fire on floor 8, floors 7, 8, and 9, evacuate now or whatever. But the announcement will let everybody know what we need to do. First off, we'll let everybody know what we need to do if a fire alarm is sounded, right?
Yeah, so your building is engineered, actually, the alarm system is engineered so that only the fire floor, the floor above, and I think the floor below, and Kyle, if you're on, maybe you can speak to this, but those are the only ones that will actually go into alarm. The rest of the floors will not go into alarm. So if you're on a floor that goes into alarm, you need to evacuate. The rest of the floors at that point do not need to evacuate. So it's just if you hear the alarm on your floor, that's when you need to take action.
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The good news is these buildings are so well built and so well equipped and have so many systems in place that, I'm sure Aaron would say the same thing. I've been in the fire service for 22 years now, and these aren't the places, thankfully, that typically people die in. It's, people who don't have working smoke alarms in their homes in the middle of the night. That's when we see a lot of fire fatalities across the nation. But this is a really well put together building, and you guys are doing a good job. And this is good that you're trying to cover all bases to know what to do. But usually, usually if the alarm system is activating and we're being deployed to your building, we're going to be really clear on the communication. And like you say, you may hear us on the speaker or in person. Either way, you're going to get clear communication.
And another thing to remember is that all of these systems that are in place have to be tested annually. And then as inspectors, you'll get a biannual inspection from the fire marshal's office that comes through and checks all of the records. We check all the fire extinguishers. We check all the exit lights. We basically go through the building from the very top floor all the way down. We make sure the stairwell doors are closing properly and latching properly. And we give that building, a look from top to bottom. And if there's even one small component of those systems that isn't working properly, if there's one door in a stairwell that doesn't latch on its own, then the building is responsible to correct that deficiency within 40 days, or they risk getting a citation from us. So that happens every 2 years. But you have a great building manager. You have a great, all of these things have been taken care of, and they're getting inspected annually. And then you get that really, fine tooth comb, so to speak, inspection from the fire marshal's office biannually.
Can you talk about CO alarms?
Yeah, CO detectors. Do you guys what do you have there for gas appliances? Do you have any gas appliances, major gas appliances, I should say?
Yes. So
Yeah, okay. So carbon monoxide detectors, the thing to know about them, a little bit different than smoke alarms. Smoke alarms are recommended to be in every bedroom and in the hallway, every level of the home. More detectors are required or recommended for smoke alarms. Carbon monoxide, you only need to have one within every 15 feet of where you sleep, on every level that there are sleeping areas. So a little bit less, one is sufficient if it's within 15 feet of all 3 bedrooms, say, for example. Thing about carbon monoxide is it's almost the exact vapor density as room air. So it's like within 0.01% of room air. So it can be moving and fluctuating throughout the room. So they don't have to be mounted high on the ceiling like a smoke alarm. They don't have to be mounted low. It's not heavier than air, so to speak. It's moving throughout the room. So that's why you see carbon monoxide detectors, and it causes a lot of confusion because people say, well, this one plugs into the wall, but all my outlets are down low. Don't I have to have it up high? And vice versa. This one installs on the ceiling because it's a smoke combo, and don't I have to have it down low? So the answer to that is they all work, because carbon monoxide is very, very much the same as the vapor density as room air. So it's moving throughout the room. So it can be high, it can be low, it can be in the middle of the wall. It's going to detect a carbon monoxide. It's going to detect carbon monoxide. So you can mount them wherever you choose. If you like the plug-in style, they're pretty handy. They're pretty easy to install. They have a little backup battery in the event of a power failure, or you can get the kind that are mounted to the ceiling. That is your choice, but I think they're great. We do definitely recommend them. Carbon monoxide poisoning is very serious. I mean, it's colorless and odorless, so you don't smell it, you don't know it's there until you start having symptoms, and that can be dangerous. So we definitely recommend them. After 2011, they came up with a new law that they were required in anything that any new building, new home or transfer of title, they were required whether they had a source or not. So they're a good thing to have. So we would definitely recommend them. Recommendation of how far points should be from the building after evacuation. Jody has a question. Yeah, Jody, as far as how far from the building, it depends on, how many. We're going to have a lot of rigs. And so, at the very minimum, 50 feet at the very minimum, but you just want to try to get as far away as you safely can, but yet able to get some kind of an accountability so you guys can all kind of take count and make sure everybody's out. Or if you know of somebody who is not, you can communicate that with us. So we don't want you 10 blocks down where you can't give us that information. But yeah, if you're too close, we'll ask you to back up. So it'll probably be pretty self-explanatory.
But if we set the default meeting point as the parking lot across the street, that's a
Yep.
situation where we can be 50 feet away, but it's also close enough that everybody can gather there easily in case
Yeah,
of fire.
I think that's perfect. Do you agree, Aaron? I think that'd be perfect.
Yeah, the big thing in all of everything that we've talked about is the accountability part. So having that predefined area, that sounds like an excellent one, is an important part of your plan. Any other questions?
Okay.
I have one more thing. I've been reading about electric cars in the garage and that are close to each other in a garage are spontaneously catching fire. And we have quite a few electric cars in our garage and the potential for an awful lot. Have you had any experience with that yet?
Catching
So-
on fire being plugged in or?
Yeah.
I have not. Aaron, if you can speak to that.
Yeah, it has been introduced as part of our our annual training is dealing with electric cars and the fire issues that are associated with them. Technically, basically what it boils down to, kind of in a nutshell, is water doesn't affect those batteries, and we're gonna treat it just like a regular car fire. And if we're not, gaining ground on it with water, then we're going to start using chemical extinguishers on it or foam or something like that. So we treat an electric car the same as another car fire, with some additional steps in there to disconnect that battery when we can.
I have a question about floor captains. Most floors only have 4 units. Some have 5, and I think one floor has 6. But I am a floor captain, but I have 3 floors that I'm responsible for. What should I be doing if an alarm is sounded? Because a lot of people don't live here all the time, so they're in and out. Should I be, I can't check 3 floors, I don't think, if I'm supposed
Sure.
to evacuate or.
Yeah, if your floor is part of the evacuation, going to that collection point, having an idea about, maybe who is out of town or who is in their second home, for the summertime or whatever, just have them check in with you since you're the floor captain before they leave. Let you know how long they're going to be gone for, and then you have a list of those people, and you can make a little notation. Jody is summering in Palm Springs, and so she'll be back in September. So you already know that when you get to that collection point, I don't have to worry about Jody; she's not here. And you can give a comprehensive count to the fire department, and you can say this person's missing, or no, this person's in their other home or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a big span of control. I wonder if you couldn't, having 3 floors, that is a lot. If it could get some more volunteers, if it could be broke down to 1 person per floor or 2, that'd be a heck of a lot easier, it would seem like. But I don't know if there's anybody willing.
Well, it's hard. Those 3 floors are only 9 units, 9 apartments. So
Yeah.
I guess the concierge normally is notified if people are going to be away for any extended time. So maybe the concierge should notify floor captains of that.
And as a floor captain, the expectation is if you need to evacuate, that you should evacuate. Your main job is accountability at that collection point.
Yeah.
It's not, we're going to go door to door, knocking on doors, making sure people are out, or opening doors and making sure people are out. That's not the expectation for a floor captain.
Yeah.
It's more to know, you know, who has mobility issues, who's going to shelter in place, who has evacuated, who is not.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Our floor captains will have walkie-talkies. Aaron, and will we be able to communicate with you through our walkie-talkies in any way?
No.
Most floor captains, you know, when we go and do the critiques for fire drills, most floor captains do have walkie-talkies. They do not tie in with the fire department. So that's going to be a face-to-face communication.
Okay.
So we need to notify our units that we're responsible for this is our meeting place if we evacuate. Please find me and let me know you're okay, you know, and then we'll coordinate with the concierge about who's away. Yeah.
Yeah, we also recommend, you know, having a bright reflective vest that the floor captain wears, something that kind of singles you out of the crowd, so that the fire department can, as we're arriving, we can identify who those floor captains are and start communicating with them.
No, that's a very good idea. Yeah.
Some of the fire drill critiques that we've done, the floor captains have gone so far as to have a go bag, and that is just a backpack that they're going to evacuate with, and it could have some space blankets, it could have some, you know, some granola bars, something they can, you know, some bottles of water, something that can keep people kind of warm and fed for the duration that they have to be evacuated while we either clear smoke or put a fire out or something like that. And some people have gone so far as to increase those go bags and put some medical emergency. Some of the floor captains are, you know, are either nurses or doctors, and they want to add some things in those bags. And, you know, that goes a lot in line with earthquake preparedness as well, if you have to evacuate the building because of an earthquake. And so those bags, you know, get exponentially bigger. But the more you're prepared, the better off you're going to be. So it's just some things to think about. It's up to you as to, you know, how big a role you want that floor captain to take and what they're able to do realistically. And yeah.
Thank you.
Were there any other questions in the chat, Mark?
No other questions in the
address?
chat.
Okay, if y'all don't have any more questions, we'll go ahead and sign off, but please, now's your opportunity if you have any follow-up questions.
And if we have follow-up questions, we have your number.
Absolutely, yeah, feel free to call. And whenever you, you know, if you do a fire drill and you want to invite us down, you can call myself or Trudy directly and we'll be there.
I think we will look forward to doing that sometime when the weather cools off a little bit.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Thank you both.
Yeah.
For
Sorry, I
everything.
had technical difficulties in the beginning. Apologize for that.
No problem at all.
We appreciate everybody's time and, you know, let us know if there's anything we can help out with in the future. That's what we're here for. So,
Fantastic. Thank you both.
all right, have a good one.